at the southbound on the East Loop approaching High Bridge. We are told that HPD is pursuing that black Lexus that you see traveling at a high rate of speed. This has been going on for about 15 minutes or so. We see that there are about 2 HPD officers that are in pursuit of this black vehicle. We don't know what started this chase or this pursuit, but we do know that it's been going on for about 15 minutes now. Again, this is happening southbound on the East Loop approaching the High Bridge. We know that clearly the road is open, not a lot of traffic in this area right now. We know that a lot of people are still at home during these troubling times right now, but a lot of it looks like the roadway is pretty open. But again, this vehicle, we're getting a live look from Sky 2 looking at a black Lexus that is currently fleeing police officers. We do know that Houston police law enforcement are pursuing this vehicle right now. We're getting a closer look. This now is South Loop under Lawndale. Again, this has been going on for about 15-20 minutes or so. We don't know what exactly led to this pursuit or why this person, we don't know who the driver is or if there are any other occupants in the vehicle at this time, but we do know that this vehicle that we are looking at that is now approaching the Gulf Freeway, traveling at a high rate of speed. You can see that vehicle is passing other cars as they travel on the freeway there, kind of weaving in and out of traffic. Again, we don't know who is behind the wheel or who else might be in the vehicle or why they're fleeing police at this point. But we do know that HPD is pursuing that black Lexus right now, and we're getting a live look from Sky 2 at 1:30 on this Monday afternoon. Not a lot of traffic to be weaving in and around, but we do know that with these, this is now heading west on East 10 South. 610 South Loop right there, 610 South Loop. That black sedan is what we're focusing on right now. Producer Steve is giving me coordinates as we watch this vehicle flee police. Again, we don't know what started this police chase. We don't know who is in that vehicle, but certainly with situations like this, it is always okay. This vehicle is now getting ready to pass the Gulf Gate Mall, I'm being told. But yeah, you can see that black sedan is what we're focusing on right now. This pursuit has been going on for about 20 minutes now. During this afternoon hour, there's not a lot of vehicles out on the road, as we know that students are not in school at this time, which is certainly making it a little bit of an easier situation for this vehicle to weave in and out of traffic. But again, we're focusing right now on this black sedan. It looks like there are 2 HPD cruisers on pursuit of this vehicle. Right now, 1:35 is the time on a Monday afternoon. That vehicle is clearly going past the speed limit, weaving in and out of traffic at this hour. But again, we don't know we're still learning to try to figure out who is behind the wheel, if there are any other occupants in the vehicle, why they are fleeing police at this point. But certainly it is always a dangerous situation when westbound on the South Loop. Okay. Coming up on McAllen now that I'm being told. So again, we're getting a live look from Sky 2, 1:35 on this Monday afternoon of this black Lexus that is trying to flee HPD right there. HPD pursuing this vehicle. As far as we know, this vehicle has remained on the highways, so not on any side street at this point. So it's kind of got open road at this point. And this chase is now coming up on MLK. So again, looking at this, the black sedan, we oftentimes don't know what originally starts these chases. We do know that it is always a dangerous situation when a vehicle is fleeing law enforcement and having no regard for any other drivers out on the roads.
And that driver zipping along in the far left lane. HPD in pursuit right now. Time now 1:35 here on a Monday afternoon This chase underway now for about 25 minutes. Unclear why this person is running from police. We're working to get that information for you right now. We can see at least one police cruiser gaining ground there. This is taking place on the South Loop right near Cullen. As Christine mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, normally on a typical Monday this time of day, we would see a lot more traffic out there. But with the stay-at-home order and the restrictions loosening, a lot of people still working from home and not really venturing out during this part of the day. So if anything, that's good news for folks who are on the road right now. They're not seeing a big backup of traffic right now. But that driver in that black sedan, that black Lexus, as you can see right there in the center of your screen, weaving in and out of traffic right now, trying to flee from police. Unclear how many people are inside the vehicle.
And again, this chase just got underway about 30 minutes ago. We do know that this began at 610 and Main around 105. We are told from law enforcement that this began as an officer-initiated traffic stop, and then the driver of that vehicle took off. Now, we don't know why the driver took off. We do know that we are getting a live look from Sky 2 at that black Lexus sedan, HPD pursuing that vehicle. But as to why that driver took off following that traffic stop, that remains unknown at this point. But it looks like that driver continuing to try to flee police as HPD is hot on the tail of that vehicle.
And just to give you some perspective here, what you just saw happen here was that vehicle exit the Scott Street exit and then do a loop around and get back on the freeway. The vehicle's now eastbound on the South Loop. Again, this is past Scott Street. You can see it looks like the car is still, yep, that's the car right there in the center lane with at least one HPD cruiser, HPD SUV, hot on its tail right now. Difficult to say how fast that driver is going, but certainly faster than a lot of the other vehicles that you see there on the road as we get close to 20 minutes till 2 on this Monday. So still a lot of unknowns as we bring you this live coverage of a police chase underway in Southeast Houston. Now the driver's going onto the grassy median and getting onto what looks like a feeder road there. Unclear which exit this is at. Okay, this is near MLK. So we just saw that driver just get off the freeway. Now he's turning north on MLK. Okay, so unclear again why this person is fleeing from police, but we've seen the driver's behavior get a bit more erratic here, Christine, in the last few minutes.
Yeah, a little more aggressive, and certainly as now we're seeing this vehicle off the highways and more on either the feeder streets or the side roads, you can see just how fast this car is going. We don't know exactly the how fast it's driving, but clearly going in and around traffic there and driving a little more erratically, which is always putting folks on the road in a dangerous situation, especially since they likely don't know what's going on. So right now, that vehicle just took a right on Perry Street. We're getting a live look from Sky 2 at that black Lexus sedan. We are now approaching 35 minutes since this chase began. Again, it started around 105 at 610 and Main as an officer-initiated traffic stop. And then according to law enforcement, that is when that driver took off. And now we're about 35 minutes into this pursuit. Now looks like driving in more of a residential neighborhood area. It seems to be because a lot of folks are staying home that the traffic is not what it would usually be at 1:30 on a Monday afternoon. This driver just turned on Keystone. So again, we're more in, you can see more houses, residential areas, but also it's always a dangerous situation for anyone out there, especially on a beautiful afternoon. Temperatures in 80 degrees, sunny skies, and it's always a little nerve-wracking to watch these, Andy, because the driver just took, it's going now during southbound on MLK. So again, getting a live look at this black sedan. We don't know who the driver is. We don't know if there's any other occupants in the vehicle at this time, but that driver is continuing to try to flee from police.
And you know, a lot for police in pursuit of this vehicle to weigh, a lot of decision making, quick thinking decision making. You have to weigh, okay, Now we're being told the driver's going right on Yellowstone. You can see that one HPD SUV still in pursuit of that car. The pursuing officers have to take a lot in consideration here. They have to worry about the safety of everyone else on the road. They have to worry about their own personal safety as well as the safety of the person who they're pursuing. This chase, this pursuit taking place in a residential neighborhood of Southeast Houston. You see a couple of other vehicles there on the road, but as Christine mentioned, you know, you don't see a lot of cars particularly out, not just in this residential area, but on many of Houston's freeways, as a lot of folks are still, you know, staying home, working from home. We do have one HPD SUV. It looks like an SUV that's in pursuit of that truck. Okay, this is at Cullen. Okay, the car just stopped there for a second. You can see it right there in the center of your screen. The driver now making a left turn going southbound on Cullen. That HPD SUV still in pursuit. Okay, it looks like there's another HPD SUV that tried to stop that. Okay, we understand it's a DPS trooper that's pursuing this black Lexus. Difficult to say how many people are inside of that car, but this all started at 1:05 this afternoon because of an officer-initiated traffic stop over at 610 in Maine. This chase continuing right now in Southeast Houston. We've seen it, this car go zip along on the freeways there on the South Loop and then exit Scott Street and then drive over a grassy median into a residential neighborhood near Scott and Cullen. This pursuit still in Southeast Houston as that DPS SUV inches closer and closer to the fleeing suspect. Christine.
Yes, and certainly we're watching a dangerous situation unfold. This black sedan, Lexus sedan, now crossing over the grass and driving westbound now on the South Loop. And as we've seen, as this chase continues, this driver driving more erratically. We don't know who is behind the wheel or what exactly prompted this chase from police, but it started, from what we understand, as an officer-initiated traffic stop. So some sort of a traffic stop for some sort of a violation, and then this driver took off. And now we're approaching almost 40 minutes fleeing from police. But we do know that there are several law enforcement vehicles that are pursuing this vehicle, now approaching 288, we're being told, but you can see picking up speed, getting back onto the freeway, and really paying no mind to the other drivers. And as we were talking about, Andy, because people are staying home, the roads are more open, making it easier for this vehicle to flee from police, but also that makes it a little more difficult for police officers while they're trying to catch him because he has more open road, but also on the other side of that, less drivers to be in harm's way. And
there goes that DPS SUV trying to get up on the right side of that car. This is an area, Christine, where there's a lot of construction going on right now. So the suspect, we were told, just got onto 288. You can see he's on the loop, but he just crossed 288. Again, this is the south part of the city of Houston. A DPS trooper in close pursuit there, as you can see. A lot of construction going on in this area around the 610 South Loop and 288. You can see those orange construction barrels there toward the right side of your screen. The DPS trooper, as you can see, gaining ground but keeping a safe distance behind that black Lexus. Again, this started at 1:05 this afternoon after an officer attempted to pull that car over. That's when the driver just took off. We've seen this chase over the course of 45 minutes weave across areas of South Houston and Southeast Houston. That car approaching NRG Park right now. Again, this is all taking place right now on the South Loop, areas of South Houston and Southeast Houston. He's weaving, the driver weaving in and out of those orange construction barrels that we've seen in the area, trying to just, you know, get away for whatever reason. We don't know why this person is running from law enforcement. We don't know how many people are inside of that car. The traffic, not too bad, Christine, on a Monday afternoon, as we've been stressing that a lot of people are, you know, still simply staying home, working from home.
Right, and we've been getting a live look from Sky 2. It appears that the shot is frozen right now. Hopefully we'll get that going. There we go again. Okay, so drawing your attention, if you're just joining us live here on Channel 2, focus on that black Lexus sedan that is fleeing DPS right now. So the DPS trooper is shortly, safely behind that vehicle, trying to gain speed, get closer to him. But we don't know who the driver is or how many occupants are in that vehicle. But this has been going on for about 40 minutes now. That DPS trooper right behind that Lexus sedan that is continuing to try to get away. We're told that vehicle is approaching Stella Link.
So this is still, again, the southeast part of Houston. You know, we've seen some very aggressive moves by this driver in that driver's attempt to flee from police, which has been going on now since 1:05 this afternoon. Difficult to say how fast that driver is going, but clearly at a high rate of speed. So the driver now going northbound on 610 West. So this is northbound on the West Loop. That's an area, Christine, where we typically see a lot of bottlenecking and slows occur really during any time of the day.
Yeah, certainly. But because it seems that people are still staying at home or are working at this hour, that the roads are more open than they typically would be on a Monday afternoon around the busy lunch hour. But that driver, just giving that driver more clear road to flee police at this point. But we're looking live at that black Lexus sedan that has been trying to get away from police for about almost 45 minutes now, and we're told that vehicle is now coming up towards the Bel Air area at this hour. But Andy, we were talking about how dangerous of a situation this always is when we see vehicles fleeing police, because this is unfolding in real time. As you know, the vehicles on the road, they're unaware of what's going on, so they're just going on their merry way, not knowing that there is a dangerous situation unfolding all around them. And we really see the true danger when these vehicles exit the freeway right now.
That driver just exiting Holcomb there in southwest Houston, excuse me. You can see the vehicle there as the shot freezes. All right, we just lost it there for a second. There it is right there, the black Lexus sedan going southbound on the West Loop again. So getting back on to the South Loop, it appears that DPS trooper in close pursuit as this chase continues. We've seen it go through areas of South Houston, Southeast Houston, now into Southwest Houston at a high rate of speed. At 1:48 in the afternoon, still a lot of unanswered questions regarding this chase. Why did this officer initiate a traffic stop in the first place? And why is this person running from police? Still a lot of unknowns at this hour that we are still trying to hammer out for you. All right, southbound on the West Loop approaching Beech Nut. Here it is, getting close to 10 minutes to 2. If you are just joining us here on Channel 2, you are watching our live coverage of a high-speed pursuit that started around 5 minutes after 1 o'clock this afternoon because of an officer-initiated traffic stop. This was at 610 and Main. The person refused to stop, and the chase was on. And here we are, you know, close to an hour later. All right, now the car is going eastbound on the South Loop. Eastbound on the South Loop. Behind that vehicle in close pursuit, we were told, is a DPS trooper. You can see the trooper's SUV coming up there on the right on the passenger side. And we know that HPD patrol cars, Christine, are following as well. So 2 law enforcement agencies at least now involved in this pursuit. Yeah, and we can't tell exactly how fast they're going from our vantage point, but you can see that vehicle weaving in and around traffic, clearly traveling faster than the vehicles around it. But that DPS trooper hot on the trail
of that sedan again, and that vehicle is now approaching NRG again. But these situations are always certainly dangerous, and we're seeing, because folks are tending to stay home right now, that the roads are more open than they usually would be. But we have seen this vehicle in the past 45 minutes traveling the areas of Southeast Houston, South Houston, Southwest Houston, on the freeways, in residential areas, disregarding traffic stops and intersections, and that always puts other drivers in danger. But we're seeing that DPS trooper get closer and closer. And again, this vehicle is now approaching the Kirby.
Right, South Loop and Kirby, going at a high rate of speed, weaving in and out of traffic. You know, the silver lining, and we can't stress this enough, the silver lining in all of this is we don't see nearly the volume of vehicles that we would typically see had we not been in our situation with the stay-at-home orders being relaxed and eased and lifted. A lot of folks staying off the roads. You can see there toward the center of your screen, that is the black Lexus sedan that the DPS troopers and HPD are chasing. The vehicles now approaching, Fannin and the South Loop. Fannin and the South Loop. Again, DPS and HPD involved in this high-speed pursuit that has been going on since 5 minutes after 1. Still unclear why this driver is running from police or how many people are in that vehicle. We don't know if the driver has any additional passengers or whatnot. These are things that we are working to find out right now. But certainly, if you know anybody that's out on the road, or you have to head out in this area of Southwest Houston and South Houston, this is an area that you're going to want to avoid. As this driver continues to take some aggressive maneuvering in order to escape from police, Christine.
And that's what makes it so dangerous. I mean, obviously, because you have a vehicle that is running from police and paying no regard to any other driver on the roads, it's always a dangerous situation. But, Andy, we've seen this driver go all over the city. There's no rhyme or reason for any moves aside from just trying to get away from police, and that always makes for just a dangerous, sketchy situation for drivers on our roadways. And as we're seeing with the open road, that driver of that black sedan is able to continue to get it. Okay, approaching 288 right now, I'm being told. So again, always a dangerous situation when these drivers are paying no regard to the drivers out there, and especially when they're approaching places like intersections and neighborhoods where there are people outside, where there are kids outside. It always kind of makes your heart stop a little bit. But again, we're focusing our attention to this black sedan via our look from Sky 2.
Now going southbound on Highway 288 in the south part of our city. I'm not sure what DPS's policy is with respect to police chases, but I know HPD, which is also involved in this chase, has made some revisions to its chase policies as well. Pursuing officers in these types of cases have a lot of tools and resources at their disposal, one being the pit maneuver, which officers have trained for. And a lot of times, if the pursuing officers, if they can get ahead of this chase, many times you'll see them lay out spike strips. We have not seen that happen thus far, but we have seen this chase take place on a busy freeway like you're seeing now here on 288, as well as through residential neighborhoods. Okay, so southbound 288 at Reed Road. That's where that black SUV and the pursuing law enforcement officers are. You can make out at least 2 law enforcement vehicles pursuing that black Lexus, which just exited the Reed Road exit, we are told. Now that DPS trooper pulling up in the far left lane, trying to get onto the driver's side. Now it appears he's pulling back just a little, and
close call,
there was a close call right there. That white car tapping that black Lexus as it made a right turn.
It looks like this vehicle is now coming to a stop.
We can see the driver putting their hands outside of the driver's side window. It appears both hands are outside the driver's side window. We can see the officers with their weapons drawn. It looks like there's several officers.
It's about 6 different cruisers right there.
And they're keeping their distance, staying on the driver's side of the DPS SUV. This is at Reed Road, just off Highway 288. Again, towards the bottom of your screen, it appears you can see the driver has two hands outside the driver's side window. We see 2, 4, 6 officers on the driver's side of the DPS SUV with their weapons drawn, pointed squarely at that black Lexus.
There's also a K-9 unit right there, but it appears that this driver stopped that pursuit as soon as it went through that intersection and tapped that other vehicle. So, of course, you can see that driver with both hands outside the window. It's hard to tell from our vantage point if anybody else is in the vehicle or who exactly is behind the wheel, but you can see the officers with their weapons drawn, getting ready to probably head up to that vehicle and likely make the next moves with this suspect.
So this chase coming to an end 50 minutes after it began, now turning into what appears to be a standoff situation between law enforcement officers who've been pursuing this driver through areas of South, Southeast, and Southwest Houston. And that person stopped there near an Exxon off of Reed Road, just off 288. It appears that person, that driver, has both hands outside the driver's side window. Unclear what's being said between the two parties, but you can see the 6 law enforcement officers with their weapons drawn standing there right next to the DPS SUV on the driver's side.
And it appears that that driver of the vehicle is opening the door and possibly about to step out, but both hands are surrendered to law enforcement right now as their weapons are drawn. Also a K-9 unit standing by, and you can see other officers in the back running up to assist the others. But again, we don't know what kind of conversation is happening between the troopers and the person behind the wheel, the suspect who had just led police on a 50-minute chase all around the Houston area, Southwest Houston, South Houston, Southeast Houston. It began around 1:05 this afternoon. It was originally started following a potential traffic stop, but that driver then took off. We don't know why. We'll likely figure that out in the hours to come. But as you can see, this situation unfolding live following a 50-minute police chase. That driver looks like about to step out of the vehicle, but again, we never know these conversations between these suspects and law enforcement.
Yeah, this all coming to an end at Reed Road, just off 288, right near an Exxon. If you were just joining us now here at 1:57 in the afternoon, you were watching the end of a high-speed police pursuit that went through many parts of our city this afternoon, including South Houston, Southeast Houston, and Southwest Houston. It appears that driver is putting his hands on top of the vehicle, facing the vehicle. Now the driver is putting both hands up, walking back towards law enforcement officers, hands still up in the air. Officers still have their weapons drawn, squarely pointed at that black Lexus sedan that they've been chasing. So we've seen the suspect walk backwards, put their hands up on the vehicle. Now that driver is turning around, hands still up in the air, turning around in circles. Unclear again, as Christine mentioned, what conversations are taking place is not clear to anyone at this point. But the driver obviously has been given clear, specific instructions from law enforcement officers, several of those law enforcement officers who are on the scene right now, trying to get this suspect into custody without incident.
And we're looking at about at least a dozen officers with DPS and HPD assisting originally in that pursuit of the vehicle. That driver now within arm's reach of the officers. Looks like they are now currently arresting him. But this again started around 1:05. So within the past hour, about an hour, this situation was unfolding across the Houston area. There's also a K-9 unit right there assisting officers with this arrest. But it seemed that it ended The driver surrendered to police as soon as it exited and was going through an intersection and tapped another vehicle. It wasn't a law enforcement vehicle. It was just another civilian who was driving. And as soon as that happened, that driver stopped. And your hope always in situations like this is that it comes to a peaceful end where no one gets hurt, because we know how dangerous these situations are. But you can see now the responding officers now looking through that vehicle. We originally were wondering if it was only one occupant in that vehicle. It seems that the driver that was just arrested and currently being taken into police custody, we were curious if that was the only person in the vehicle. Turns out, at least from our vantage point, that it was. Still a lot of questions, Andy, that we have at this point. Why did that driver flee? What kind of secrets was that person hiding, or is there some sort of arrest out for a warrant out for his arrest? Those questions will be answered in the future.
Yeah, but this situation, you know, we've seen these unfold and play out so often on our airwaves here in the Houston area, and there's so many different ways that these situations could end. Today, it comes to an end peacefully, without incident. That suspect surrendering to police just before 2 o'clock this afternoon, right off Highway 288 and Reed Road near an Exxon station after a 50-minute pursuit across south, southeast, and southwest Houston. You watched it unfold live on our air. The suspect finally coming to an end after tapping another vehicle while exiting Reed Road.
Yeah, again, this started at 105 at 610 in Maine. It started as an officer-initiated traffic stop, and it ends about 55 minutes later with that driver in custody. We, of course, will keep you updated on the latest developments regarding this chase on click2houston.com, and our news coming up at 4 o'clock.
This has been breaking news. For continuing coverage, go to click2houston.com.